anarchy.
Is that the Avengers or is that... I don't think that's the Avengers. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the series that I really enjoy, The Richest. And today we are going to be taking a look into their video on Mike Tyson and his 1.1, is that what it is? 1.1 $1 million mansion? His $1 million abandoned mansion. I have to know.
Mike Tyson is one of the most notorious athletes to ever jump into a boxing ring. So it should...
Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but boxing is not an easy sport, okay? And the way he moves, the way he fights, the way he goes after you in the body and then comes up from below. Dude's a rock star. Only bad thing is he should have had an accountant because he made so much money and lost it all. I think he's worth like $3 million right now, and that's probably pretty nice. So being generous.
Come as no surprise that he bought a cursed, abandoned mansion that eventually became a church. It's 1988, and Mike Tyson's Ohio estate very much just dropped into his lap. He purchased it from a sheriff's auction for $300,000. It has 6 beds and 7.5 bathrooms stretched out over 22,000 square feet. He then added in wonderful amenities like a marble master bathroom and a giant whirlpool. It's a gorgeous estate removed from the world in the woods, where snow can paint across the magnificent stonework exterior and the surrounding.
I really can't stand the stone look of a house. I can't. It looks good like as an accent wall, but not as a house, in my opinion.
Tyson was able to find a suitable celebrity for his Ohio estate. In 1999, he sold it to Tybo's Paul Mon, who picked it up for $1.3 million during Tybo's peak. In 2007,
that's a win.
He was then sentenced to 13 years of federal prison for money laundering. This will become a bit of a trend, you'll see. The mansion was then left to rot for over a decade. The year is now 2015, and it is...
Pay your taxes. You make a little money, buy some property, cost segregate those things to not pay those taxes, but pay your taxes.
Now a gated home that stands abandoned. The party pad has been left for decades with a dried up pool, an empty echo through the formerly packed living spaces, and the empty marble jacuzzi with the anarchy.
Is that the Avengers or is that... I don't think that's the Avengers.
Spray painted in the bottom, revealed in the mirrored reflection above. It was then purchased by an unnamed buyer for $600,000. That was then donated to the Living Word Sanctuary, who had to pay off $50,000 in back taxes. While it was estimated to cost well over $7 million to rebuild, the church was able to convert it with a small fraction of that cost. Huge living rooms were turned into worship spaces, guest bedrooms were turned into kids' rooms, and the back patio area was landscaped for future weddings. It is nowhere near as extravagant as its days owned by Tyson, but the church's minimalist, less is more strategy has really paid off.
I mean, it works. That's, hey, cool, I guess.
When he first bought the home, it was good to be Mike Tyson. The boxer took down Trevor Berbick with a second-round knockout that made him the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. He also walked away with a cool $1.5 million, while his opponent got $700,000 for getting his clock cleaned by eye.
I'm just telling you, dude was a monster. Still is.
The rise just keeps going from there. Tyson would go on to remain undefeated for years, earning 10, then 20, and then 30 million for each showdown in the ring. All this success truly started to add up, and Tyson wound up earning $300 million on the fights alone. So naturally, you buy as many enormous mansions as you can.
And a hideous face tattoo.
Movies have taught us anything. It's that the best way to break a house's curse is with a priest. It's basically the entire premise of the Conjuring franchise. So if a priest could get rid of a home's curse, what about a church? After hearing about his other cursed house, I'm not so sure. It's 2015, and his other estate in Connecticut is adorned with giant posters of a famous rapper in an enormous room with no buyers walking through. Both of these accursed homes ruined the lives of nearly everyone who tried to live there, starting with one of the greatest boxers of all time. Back in the 80s, this property reportedly held many giant parties, including star-studded birthday bashes with over 700 celebrities. And I'm sure parties just because it was Tuesday, and why not? It even briefly housed his white tiger worth $700,000. Yes, the hangover didn't lie. Tyson actually did own a tiger. In fact, he owned 3, and was rumored to have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on pigeons. The Connecticut estate stretches out over 50,000.
Yes, that's as stupid as you heard. Now the tiger, it's still stupid. You seen the Tiger King? You know, oh, how much money does it cost to feed that thing?
With a whopping 19 bedrooms and 25 bathrooms. As far as amenities go, even by ludicrous celebrity standards, it is decadent. An indoor nightclub, a casino, a home theater, a billiards parlor, a helicopter pad, an indoor and outdoor pool, an indoor and outdoor basketball court, and much, much more. It's about as classy a party pad as money can buy. A beautiful white and red color scheme, a breathtaking veranda around back, and a perfectly manicured...
And a whopping tax bill to pay property taxes on it. You know, it's things you don't think about. It's things that I think about all the time, especially every year when I write those checks. Yeah.
Oh. Lawn all make this into a masterpiece. Then once you step inside, you see the marble floors that lead to twin spiral staircases that really top the place off. If you're gonna buy a home that shows just how ludicrously rich you are, this is the home to buy.
Plus you have to ludicrous...
This really did see the peak of Tyson's decadence. Happened.
Is that him?
On June 11, 2005, Tyson gave one of his most surprising bouts of all time. For the guy who once bit off Evander Holyfield's ear, that's truly saying something. During the 7th round against Kevin McBride, Tyson seemed to actually give up the fight. Prison stints, controversies, divorces, and the destruction of his reputation had taken a toll. His physical and mental exhaustion with boxing was on full display. It was clear that Iron Mike wasn't so iron anymore. Years later, he would admit that he was far from his best and never thought he had a chance of winning. That he'd done the whole match for the payday. So how much of a payday would it take for Tyson to humiliate himself like that? Evidently, it was around $30 million. For someone who's...
Right here. Can I put my mouthpiece in? 30 million.
Made over $300 million and still had a pretty massive endorsement deal. Is 30 mil really worth further tarnishing a legacy? Well, Tyson's body was pretty far from its peak, and so was his bank account. He had dropped all the way into bankruptcy. It was reported that he was over $23 million in debt. So how exactly do you burn through that kind of cash? Well, the rumors paint a picture of a celebrity with absolutely no control over his ego or his wallet. That includes dropping tens of millions on cars he never drove and houses he didn't live in. There's even a story about Tyson flaunting his wealth by walking into a BMW
Them teeth.
dealership and buying every car on the lot. Once all this debt landed on Tyson's head, it was a real knockout. He went from being one of the greatest legends in sports history to being a sad has-been who spent his days feeding hundreds of pigeons in his Paradise Valley, Arizona
With a face tattoo. That's silly.
home. This is exactly the kind of mind frame a man has when he utterly abandons his mansions he can't afford upkeep on anymore. You see, people buy these giant houses without realizing that they require a full staff of people to both run and maintain. They aren't one-time purchases you make when things are hot. They're investments that you will have to keep up with for the rest of your life. You know, unless you can pawn it off on someone else. For that, he found another star on the rise and dropped at least one of the properties for over $4 million. That star was known as Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent.
Someone else not so great with money.
Back in 1985, a year before Tyson would punch his way into sports history, this estate was actually built for Benjamin Sisti, the founder of the Colonial Realty Company. 10 years later, he was convicted of fraud in what was called the biggest real estate scandal in Connecticut history. The curse of this place appears to be very, very real. But 50 Cent...
So I tell you too, you got to watch those gurus, right? Those fake gurus. You know, I'm never gonna tell you to do something crazy in real estate. I'm going to tell you to do the very basics, the snowball effect of growing real estate. Start small, you know, keep doing it. Put 20% down. If you can't afford to put 20% down, you're not going to live in it, then there is just no purchasing it, right? You can, there still is, but it's not smart. Because during a recession, right, gas prices being around $5 a gallon, right, just here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, imagine somewhere in California, I think it's like $8 a gallon, 7 something. So understand when things get like that, people can't afford to pay their mortgages if they're not rented, or if there's a big repair bill or a property tax bill. So be careful with this stuff. It's sad to watch it happen, but some of these people will pull your money in, do all this crazy stuff to build these properties, and then ultimately, you know, go bankrupt because they can't afford it, or the bank calls the note. And they pretended they had all this money, but they had your money. So watch out for all those fake gurus trying to get you to give them their money. I see it all day long.
I had no idea once he picked up the keys from Tyson in 2003. It seemed like the place was going to be his lucky charm. The signs were all there. It was at 50 Poplar Hill Drive, was over 50,000 square feet, and had well over 50 rooms. If that's not a sign for 50 Cent, what is? 50 Cent was literally so successful that he had to buy a $4 million pad for the expenses. He then showed off his purchase on Cribs, where he demonstrated a few of his additions, like the basement stripper poles and the recording studio. His career...
I'm so old that I remember MTV Cribs, and so if you do, comment below, I remember MTV Cribs. I'd appreciate to read that. And yeah, it was always the fridge. Always the fridge.
Featured the exact same kind of success as Tyson's, with a fortune in the realm of $100 million. In 2015, though, the curse had claimed its next victim. Decadent spending and tax evasion.
And I like him. So, like, I like both of them. I don't know about the real estate guy. I don't know you, so I probably don't like you. But these two guys, I like. Man, Candy Shop, all these songs from 50. G-Unit was okay. You know, The Game, he's okay. But 50 Cent I've always enjoyed. And I felt bad for him at the Super Bowl whenever, you know, I mean, that was funny. But yeah, I still would like to see Tyson fight Logan Paul. I mean, Tyson's an old man, so, you know, it's not the same as it used to could. So, you know, he wouldn't fight Tyson in his prime. Tyson was scary, so scary. Like, I box, and I move slow compared to even slow motion of Tyson. It's scary.
Had driven Jackson into bankruptcy as well, with over $20 million of debt. So it obviously came time to sell this mansion once more. Only it wasn't as easy to sell the largest house in the Northeast as he thought. The neighbors actually considered it to be a garish eyesore, one that Jackson had not occupied or maintained in years, just like Tyson before him. He originally tried to put it on the market for close to $18.5 million, but it became pretty clear pretty fast that he wouldn't get that. After 12 long years on the market, the desolated space sold for less than 80% of what he wanted. It sold for $2.9 million.
But you have to understand that somebody has to go and renovate that whole property.
The house went to Florida entrepreneur and aspiring politician Casey Asker, who purchased the home and then failed to win a race for Florida's 19th congressional district shortly thereafter. Did these curses ever let up? It does seem like both of the curses may, in fact, be broken. Tyson is back in the ring and has resurrected his bank account to the tune of $10 million.
Hey! I believe it. It's on the richest, therefore it's true.
50 Cent is making all kinds of money on the 300 spin-offs to his hit show Power, which has gotten him back up to $52 million.
So proud. I didn't know these things. So very proud.
I kind of think you should spend that $2 million, you know what I mean? $50 million is a much better.
Don't tempt him. Don't tempt him with a good time.
So the curse may be gone, but the new church's front gate still has the name Mike Tyson.
Why would you take it down?
On it. A permanent relic of a time long, long past. If a home has had a violent crime, they're supposed to knock off like 15 to 20.
So look, that's just interesting. I really enjoy The Richest. They put so much effort into their videos. So look, what an amazing video. I always enjoy watching this type of video. And it had a silver lining that Tyson is over $10 million now, which is not chump change, right? But at the same time, you can learn a lot of lessons from this. 50 Cent and Tyson lost everything virtually. Both got into the bankruptcy area. Tyson was for sure bankrupt. I think 50 Cent did as well. And now they've made their way back. So understanding that's a life experience that they'll fix for the next time. At least I hope they will, because that'll humble you to have such success and then get hit in the face with that cold hard reality. And it's so sad that so many NFL, basketball, baseball, not as much on the baseball, but still a lot in the baseball, will make all this money and then in 5 years after retirement be virtually broke. It's so very sad, but there's so many people in their circles. There's so many people that are always asking for things and wanting that money, and they never earned it the financial way. They earned it by their bodies, and they need to have somebody there to counsel them, because some of these people that go and do this become athletes and multimillionaires at 18 years old. So you never get to learn those hard knocks right there to be in the checkout line, swipe your card, it doesn't work. That happened to me one time, and it wasn't for the lack of money. I only had a debit card. I had $10,000 in my savings account, but there was no way for me to touch it. That day, I got a credit card, but I still had the empathy to know what it is like to leave my buggy there and everybody think that I have absolutely no money. And so when it all comes down to it, I've always tried to manage my money well, and here we are putting it together on the channel and just trying to share how I spend my money so you can better invest yours. Once again, I 100% believe in you. We have no more outros anymore, so I'll see you on the next one.